Do you hear that? Well, unless you've been living on Mars somewhere for the last 25 years or so, you know exactly what that is. I've literally witnessed thousands of people go crazy with anticipation as soon as they hear that drum beat come in. I've also had the privilege of witnessing the man play that drum beat for the man to dance one of the most famous dance sequences the world has ever known. Jonathan Sugarfoot Moffett setting it up for Michael Jackson for nearly 30 years. Take a look.
Jonathan Sugarfoot Moffett started his first major job as a drummer with the already legendary group The Jacksons back in 1979. He was the last man to audition for the job, but was hired the very next day. After his first performance, Michael marveled at how Jonathan matched his lightning-fast moves with dynamics and power. It seems that all those years ago, MJ knew he found his lifelong drummer. Jonathan also toured with the Material Girl Madonna and Sir Elton John, but his career of 30 years with Michael from the very early days all the way up to the beautifully filmed but tragic masterpiece, This Is It, is unparalleled by any drummer in the world. Jonathan Sugarfoot Moffett, drummer for the king of pop, drummer for the greatest entertainer the world has ever known.
Let's do it one more time.
Ask Dino. Ask Dino. Yes, sir. Ask Dino.
Dog on the mic, if you're gonna get it right, you might ask Dino.
If you wanna get it right, your production isn't tight, turn them on tonight and ask Dino. Dino. He knows.
Hello everybody, welcome to the Ask Dino Show. My name is Dino Maddalone. We're coming live from Los Angeles, California. Tonight we've got real music royalty on the show. We've got a man that has kept the #1 drum chair with Michael Jackson for over 30 years. His name is Jonathan Sugarfoot Moffett. Jonathan, thank you for coming down, man.
It's a pleasure to be here.
All right, man. Thank you. Can I read some of your credits?
Absolutely.
All right. Okay, now you started playing with the Jacksons way back in 1979, and you played with Patty Austin, Cameo, and you're still playing with Cameo, right?
Yes, I'm with Cameo 28 years later.
Wow, 28 years. Okay. Also, he played with Lionel Richie, No Slouch, the Jacksons again, and the Victory Tour, which I saw at Dodger Stadium in 1984, which was unbelievable. He went on to play with Madonna in the Virgin Tour, Madonna again on Live Aid World Tour, Tina Marie, Jermaine Jackson, Elton John, George Michael, Janet Jackson, Michael Jackson again, all the way up to, actually Stevie Wonder too, all the way up to, he played with in the This Is It tour and movie, which is unbelievable. Anyway, I know it's been tough on you. I know the whole scenario has been tough on you, but what I want to know is what you felt the first time you saw the movie This Is It. How did you feel? It must have been a mixture of pride and heartbreak.
Exactly. It was very, very bewildering. You go there expecting what usually is Michael's organization, perfection in the film quality, because the same people that was in charge of the tour were in charge of making the film, helping the film become what it is.
Right.
So I'm there expecting the greatness of the film, but at the same time, every scene reminds me of those times, you know, of being with him when he was breathing and he was alive. It's hard because you relive that inside in your mind and your heart and your spirit. And so it's very difficult to balance the emotions, you know, between the pride and the happiness and the excitement from seeing yourself and seeing and hearing the music, but at the same time, knowing that those times are gone and past and you can't bring them back. And, you know, we lost someone really, truly great and beautiful in spirit, in heart, you know, and that's a very special person, and you never can have that again. And also knowing that I can never play those songs like that again without him being there in front of me.
You know, when the news broke to me, I was in the studio, we were doing a gospel movie, and it was an absolute shock. I mean, all these people that we had in the studio were real famous gospel singers, and it was just an unbelievable shock.
Yeah.
But I gotta tell you, the first thing I thought of after the shock was the other musicians, the dancers, the singers, the crew, I mean, especially the ones, I know that you've been on tour with him forever, but the ones that were brand new,
yeah.
I felt like just like, oh my God, they must have felt just horrible. Did you stay in contact with them? Did you talk to them?
Yeah, I talked to some of them. I'm in touch with them. You know, as you say, it's very horrible for them because this is a chance in a lifetime, but not only a chance in a lifetime, but the chance in a lifetime.
Exactly.
Because he is the pinnacle. He's the tip of the mountain.
You don't get any better. You don't get any higher. He's the one.
And they jumped from the bottom ground floor to the top and peak of the mountain by joining Michael's camp and this tour, which was going to be unbelievable and magnificent, and Michael's last. So what a ride to go from somebody totally unknown and trying to develop your career to standing on the tip of the mountain with the king of entertainment. You know?
Right. I'm a firm believer in so goes the drummer, so goes the show. And I know Michael must have felt that too, with you. I mean, Elvis had Ronnie Tutt, James Brown had a Jabo Starks, Frank Sinatra had Irv Coulter, Buddy Rich, and Michael Jackson had Jonathan Sugarfoot Moffett. What I want to know is, Jonathan, after all those years, I mean, he could have picked anybody, right?
Of course, anybody on earth.
He could have picked anybody. We would all, as drummers, we would have killed for that job. Yeah. But he picked this man after all that time. Okay, now, I know that there was a special thing with you musically with him, but I want to know, what was the bond that you and him had? You just, you know, hanging out with him, just you and him. What was the bond that you guys had that kept you together all those 30 years?
It was a spiritual thing from the very, very first
But he trusted you. He trusted you. He knew that you were the man for the job.
It was just something in our spirits. You know, of course, I knew when I got with him, he wasn't the Michael Jackson we all know now, the icon.
Right.
He was, the Jacksons were rebuilding their career. At that particular time, in the spring of '79, they had the album out, Destiny album, and that was another step, the first step towards rebuilding their careers and becoming back on top. So Michael was Michael Jackson, you know, and people remember him from being the child, you know, and to the adolescent, and still doing incredibly great work. So, but he wasn't the king of pop yet, because they were still just working on Off the Wall at the time, behind the scenes while we were rehearsing for the first Destiny tour I did. Mind you, I had only 3 days to learn the whole show.
3 days.
My first professional tour in my life.
Unbelievable.
And I auditioned 3-4 days
and
before.
You don't read music, do you?
I don't read, no.
So you did this all by memory?
It's all memory because you have to. When you have to. First day I saw it was at that first show in Cleveland.
So you never even saw him until the show?
Not until the show.
Unbelievable. And
then, that show, I watched him, kept my eye on him, played to him, watched his body movements, and I would see things in his body movements, and it was just a kinetic energy, something I would feel and interpret what he was going to do. For some reason, it was magic. It was like I could sense what his body movement was going to do and how he was going to wind up in a dance figure on a stop or a break or a spin. It was intuitive. It was like we had an umbilical cord connected.
That was my point on So Goes the Drummer, So Goes the Show.
Yeah.
And that's why these mega stars, like an Elvis, like Frank Sinatra, like Michael Jackson, need a guy behind him that he knows that if I do this, he's, boom, he hits it. You know what I mean?
It was nothing rehearsed. It was all on instinct that I felt from him, because this is, remind you, is his first time performing with me on the stage during the first show that we did together ever. So it was all on me to watch him, to even know when he was going to do that, because if my attention deviated, I would have missed it. He felt it because he called me to his room after that show. And he called me. Now, of course, I was scared to death. I'm like, I must have jacked something up. I jacked it up. I'm about to get fired, sent home. I said, what could I have done? Because no one said anything. So, when you get a call like that, Michael wants to see you in his room. And I'm in my room, and I say, okay. My voice trembles. And then you go walking down the hallway, and it seems like the hallway stretches out. You never get to the door. It's like taking 15, 20 minutes just to walk down one hallway.
The emperor's calling me.
And then you go to knock on the door, and your hand's trembling, and it's like,
so what happened?
And he answered the door, and he said, he called me Foot. He said, Foot, come on in. That's his voice like that, So I said, okay. So I go in his room. And then he walks around a little bit. He said, how you doing? How you feel about the show? I said, I feel pretty good. And he said, great. Then he gets quiet because Michael don't talk a lot.
Right.
So he walks around and pacing the room a little bit. And he says, how did you know I was going to do this move here? And he said, that move on this song and that. And I sat there like, huh? He said, yeah, I said, what do you mean? He said, well, when I did this thing and I did this stop and I moved my body this way and I stopped suddenly, you hit something with me. You hit this thing with me. How did you know I was going to do that? I said, I don't know. I felt it. And he said, okay. Then he walked around holding it like this and walking around the room a little bit. And when I did this other thing, I did the spin and I stopped, and when I wanted to, you hit this thing right when I stopped. How did you feel? How do you know I was gonna do that? And I said, I don't know, I was watching you real close, and I felt you, I just felt it. And he said, oh, wow, great. I'm like saying, oh, what is this getting to?
Right.
Did I mess up? Was I not supposed to do that?
Right.
Then he says, one more thing, he said, describe something else he did. And I did this thing, and then I did this thing, and I did the arm motion, I did this, and I froze.
Right.
You hit them with me. How did you know what to do and what to hit? I said, I felt it. He said, wow, and I got scared. I said, oh man, he's pointing out all these things. I must have did something bad. I wasn't supposed to do those. So I said, I put my head down and he said, well, that was great. I loved it. I want you to do that every single time.
Well, you know what trips me?
I was like, what?
So in other words, basically, this is what I'm talking about. You always remember how somebody makes you feel.
Yes.
And whenever it came time for the drummer situation, that's the guy. I remember he probably remembered that from the very first time.
The very first time, because he said no one else has ever done it. None of the other drummers that ever worked with us ever did that.
Well, let's talk about your drumming now. You're very precise. Obviously, we're talking about how precise you are. Well, actually, real quick, let's cut to a video now of Jonathan doing there's a little clinic tour that he's doing. We're going to talk about that in a second. But check this out. It's Want to Be Starting Something, Michael Jackson. Check this video out. Watch the precision and the dynamics. Check it out. Killer. Unbelievable. This guy is a machine. He's a machine. A human machine. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, now, let's talk about your clinic now. I want to talk about the clinic that you're doing with the Michael Jackson songs and everything. So actually, guys can watch the man playing the man's songs. And you can actually see how it's actually done. You can't guess what he did and how he did it. You can actually watch him and see him play these songs. Tell us about that clinic and the tour.
Well, it's like me paying tribute to Michael, who believes in me so many years and wanted me around and demanded to have me around, even on This Is It, and that many years later. So I felt enough time had gone by, and when I got the call to play in Australia for a series of drum clinics, I said, you know what, it just clicked in my mind, this is the time. And I told them, they said, what criteria are you going to do? And I said, I'm doing a Michael Jackson tribute show. I wound up calling the computer gentleman that, Michael Prince, who does computers for Michael on the live records, on the records as well as live shows. And I said, I want it to be this experience as if the show and the tour would have gone out.
Let's check out another song, Jam, which is one of my favorite songs. Check this out. Jonathan Moffett playing Jam. Check it out.